Fat Joe said that.
Fat Joe's a
6ix9ine sat down for an interview with the Dancer Project, and things went totally off the rails when the host brought up Fat Joe's old comments about him.
Fat Joe said that.
Fat Joe's a
Lean back.
We've been leaning back for 20 years, man. Like,
He said you crowned yourself the rat leader and you wrote the 48 laws of snitching.
6ix9ine didn't bite his tongue for a second. He fired back and straight up exposed Fat Joe right there on the spot. And believe me, we're diving deep into every single detail of this messy exchange. I even checked the facts myself, and guess what? It's all 100% real. But before we get into the madness, let's rewind a bit and look at what Fat Joe's been saying about 6ix9ine over the years, because this man has not let up.
Right, so when she came to me and told me that, we did 2 projects and we got her, not us. We didn't take $1, we got her $1 million for her and the family. Now, she ran through it because she was used to spending that money. She comes back, I write her a check out my pocket, boom, and I'm like, yo, it ain't no more after.
We're talking multiple interviews stretching back 2 or 3 years, like that one on Mab Hoffa's show where Fat Joe straight up disrespected 6ix9ine, calling him out of his name and going off with zero hesitation. And it didn't stop there. Just last month, Joe was still throwing shade. Let's be real here. Whenever people in hip-hop start talking about rats, 6ix9ine name always comes up. Whether you see Alpo as part of the culture or not, 6ix9ine became the most talked about snitch the rap game's ever seen. His name turned into the symbol of betrayal in this new era of hip-hop. During that Mab Hoffa interview, Fat Joe called 6ix9ine a pussy and a B, claiming he was mad because he tried to warn him about that Rico case before it exploded. But 6ix9ine didn't listen, and once the storm hit, everything. Once you hit your 40s, peace starts to mean more than pride. But even if Fat Joe was asked about it during an interview, he really needs to chill. Like, bro, stop calling people out their names in public. It's just unnecessary drama that keeps old beef alive. 6ix9ine made it clear he wasn't coming for Fat Joe just to stir up beef. He said straight up, he ain't snitch on me and he ain't snitch on nobody I know. But then he added that Joe used to talk about the same guys he warned ahead of time about what would happen, and they still kept 6ix9ine around anyway. Wow, right?
if I crown myself the rat leader, he crowned himself as the cap leader. He didn't rob no 50 and no gym. Yo, bro, I'm not gonna lie, bro. Which one's my camera? That one?
Yeah.
This one? That one? Yeah, Fat Joe, you're a like you're I'm not even gonna lie, you're a captain of the cap. Like nobody believe, even your co-host who's Jadakiss don't believe you. Every time you say a cap, that like like, but like I said, you gonna go
flag, like and flag on the play.
And my next song, I even say I be spitting so much facts that I make jokes to distract. That's the next bar in my song. Don't like the truth, so y'all make jokes to distract me. We know this lying, right? All right, yo, listen to me. Listen.
But there's
to
a lot
me.
of people that say he ain't lying.
He ain't lying. All right, which one's my camera? If Fat Joe is not lying, the next person on the Dancer Project, bring Big Pun's son. Bring Big Pun's son on the Dancer Project. Welcome back,
Chris Rivers.
Welcome back, y'all. Let's skip this clip. Watch when he see this clip, he gonna hit up. Yo, Chris, don't do that. How much money you need? Out of here. Yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah, you just said a lot. You just said a lot.
Bring Big Pun's son, even on the verses. Remember when he was facing Ja Rule?
Yeah.
And they said, don't play that shit. That's Big Pun. Don't do that. Don't do what, fat bitch? You talking about, nigga?
Here's where it gets real interesting. Fat Joe's been acting like the self-proclaimed prime minister of hip-hop morality lately. His whole image is built around being anti-snitch. That's literally his brand now. That's the hill he's ready to stand on forever. But let's not forget, those harsh words came years ago. Since then, 6ix9ine thrown a few shots back in interviews, but things recently heated up again after Joe brought it back just last month. He told Jadakiss he stayed up one night thinking about who started what he called the snitching epidemic in hip-hop. And who'd he blame? You guessed it, 6ix9ine.
Yo, what's the event in hip-hop that broke the camel's back? Pause. To make it to where you could snitch. And if you make good music or something, you could still live out here in hip-hop. Like, what was the straw that broke the camel's back in hip-hop, where we had a code and there is no code no more? There just isn't no code no more. And what do you think is the event that, I remember growing up, even if you was fronting, you wasn't a real gangster, but you was spitting gangster rap shit. You wasn't with the rats like that. Right now, this
too many of them
sold out concerts.
I don't think you can escape them. They all around. They're like New York City rats. Humans. It's rats everywhere. And everywhere is everything,
Too many Fredos, not enough Michaels.
That's a fact.
Some of these guys got to take a boat ride, never come back. Sammy the Bull is the most famous rat on the earth. Sammy the Bull. Then you came Alpo. Guy everybody looked up to, charismatic, Harlem fly, Louis Vuitton, this, that, Toll. He did that, right?
Shout out to Wayne Perry and Wayne Perry Jr.
Then, in hip-hop, the day 6ix9ine sat on that stand.
Yo.
No!
Man.
You remember, if you're watching the story, they taking him to court in bulletproof vests. They acting like he was telling on El Chapo. He put a lot of good people in jail, man.
Facts.
No,
we got to put him away till his time.
Yo,
my feeling is going to get close.
You feeling
I feel his time has come. I feel his time is going to be soon, though.
We're going to need a lot.
Yeah.
Does it not matter no more? And I believe 6ix9ine, when he gave guys 20 years in jail. All the guys, he was like, but he fucked my wife. But he did. That means nothing. There's a man that works in a bodega that never been a criminal in his life, see some shit, and he won't tell.
But hold up. What's that got to do with music anymore? Let's be real here. 6ix9ine hasn't been dropping major hits lately. His new songs just aren't connecting the same way, and people are starting to notice. Even 6ix9ine snippets aren't pulling numbers like before. Yeah, he had his moment. There was a time when his sound ran the whole scene, but that wave crashed fast. The hype faded, and the charts don't lie. But let's keep it real here. This whole snitch talk has nothing to do with his music stats. If almost 90% of hip-hop listeners ain't from the streets, why keep pushing street codes on fans who never lived that kind of life? Even most black fans didn't grow up in the hood, and that's just facts. So why should street rules matter in a genre that's mostly supported by people who don't live by them? It's music, not a courtroom. Go to any rap concert this year and really look around. You'll see the truth with your own eyes. At least 70% of the crowd isn't black, and depending on who's performing, that number shoots up to 80 or even 90%. Go to a Drake concert, for example. Most of those fans ain't from the block, and that's just real talk. So why keep holding rappers to a code the audience don't even follow? It's wild, right? But that's still Fat Joe's biggest gripe with 6ix9ine. He blames him for breaking the rules, for destroying what he called the street code of hip-hop. So when 6ix9ine finally clapped back, he did it smart. Most people who get labeled as rats try to deny it or hide, but 6ix9ine didn't flinch. He stood right there in front of the world and flipped the whole narrative, calling out the double standards instead. Fat Joe talks heavy about morals, integrity, and being a real one. But 6ix9ine tore that image to pieces. He basically said, how you preaching about honor when you ain't even follow the same code you brag about? And that's when 6ix9ine dropped a bomb that shook the whole internet. He brought up big pun, son. According to street rules, when your homie passes, you take care of their family. You make sure they're good, especially if money and business was involved. That's supposed to be the highest level of loyalty.
And so we find ourselves in situations like Liza Rios has with Joe Cartagena, Fat Joe, where, you got to file a lawsuit to figure out what actually happened and to find out where is the money. So today, although Fat Joe's lawyers originally filed an answer in the case. They subsequently filed a motion to dismiss, as did Jelly's Jams, not claiming that they don't owe any money, but just making technical legal arguments that basically saying that Liza can't sue them for one reason or another. We feel pretty good about the hearing. There was a hearing that took place today, oral arguments for our side and for Jelly's Jams and Fat Joe, to talk about why we believe that they should be kept in this case, and why we believe that they basically had fiduciary duties, meaning a higher standard than a breach of contract standard, to pay Liza monies that were due her husband so that her family can benefit. You asked if it was a rehashing. Well, in some ways it's the same issue. The big question is, where's the money, right? So, and there's some new information has come to light just of late that is setting some light on what happened to the money. And so that's really why this lawsuit is being filed now. Over time, you're supposed to get royalties twice a year or whatever, and most of the time the accounts are saying they're unrecouped. So when an artist is getting statements that say they're unrecouped, there's really no reason for them to think that there should be money there. Right. In this particular case, we found the reason to believe that there really should be some more money there. And that is that we found out that in foreign territories overseas, that the writer splits are not properly reflected for the songs the way they should have been. And that's indicating that there was some money that was collected there that shouldn't have been collected. So that's where we're after. We're trying to pursue that. Actually, the important thing is that now artists are also getting paid for that money. Right. ASCAP and BMI, the traditional, societies that collect money for songwriters, have been able to collect money for those streaming services and other, new technology types of services.
But according to 6ix9ine, Fat Joe didn't live up to that code when it came to Big Pun's family. That's why he brought up Pun's son, because that situation exposes the gap between Joe's words and his actions. When 6ix9ine mentioned Big Pun's name, social media exploded. He claimed that Fat Joe, who used to be close with Big Pun, didn't look out for Pun's family like a real one should. That hit deep, because Big Pun isn't just another rapper, he's a hip-hop legend. And the idea that someone who was once his brother-in-arms might have turned his back on his family, that's a huge accusation. Then came the line that froze the room. 6ix9ine said, "You talking about morals, but you ain't even take care of your brother's people." That one sentence hit harder than a diss track, because for all that talk about loyalty and street principles, 6ix9ine was exposing a possible contradiction. Fat Joe preaching one thing while allegedly not living it. The message was clear. Don't talk about integrity if you can't back it up in real life. Now, to be fair, Fat Joe always defended himself against those claims. He said multiple times that he's shown love and respect to Pun's name and legacy whenever he could. But let's be honest, the internet don't care about explanations. They care about drama. Once 6ix9ine threw that shot, fans went digging like detectives. Old interviews, old pictures, even contracts, trying to see if there was any truth behind it. And that's when things started to get real messy, because what 6ix9ine did wasn't just a clap back. He flipped the whole rat conversation upside down. He turned the focus from himself to the very people who claim to live by the code, exposing how shaky that moral ground really is. Instead of denying what he did, 6ix9ine flipped the script and started exposing the very people calling him out. He didn't dodge the smoke, he dragged it right into the spotlight and made everyone ask the real question. If being a real one is all about loyalty, then who's actually living by that code? This wasn't just a diss, it was a strategic hit at Fat Joe's whole reputation. 6ix9ine turned Joe's own message back on him, and whether people liked him or not, no one could deny how sharp that comeback was. After that bomb about Big Pun's son, the internet went crazy. The debate split hip-hop fans straight down the middle. Some said 6ix9ine exposed the truth, but others claimed he was just trying to drag Fat Joe for clout. But no matter what side you were on, the damage was done. People started seriously questioning Fat Joe's image, the same one he spent decades building in hip-hop. And 6ix9ine didn't let up. He kept the pressure on, pulling up old interviews where Big Pun's widow and son said they never got what they were promised after Pun's passing. That stirred up a storm online. People started digging through receipts, rewatching old clips, and comparing every single statement. It got wild fast, and social media was on fire. Meanwhile, Fat Joe tried to keep it classy, saying he's always shown respect to Pun's name and legacy whenever he could, but 6ix9ine flipped that right back, saying respect ain't just words, it's action. That line hit like a grenade in the culture, because when you call yourself a man of principles, people expect you to live those principles. And that's exactly why the internet leaned in, because 6ix9ine was exposing something deeper than just drummer. He was calling out the double standards. Then came another dagger from 6ix9ine. He said Fat Joe was out here trying to play judge of the streets when he wasn't even clean himself. That line hit like a grenade in the culture, because suddenly it wasn't just about Big Pun anymore. It became about the bigger picture. 6ix9ine was challenging the whole idea of who even gets to decide who's real and who's fake in this new era of hip-hop. And what's wild is that no matter how you feel about 6ix9ine, his response hit a nerve. For the first time ever, the so-called rap made the so-called real ones look hypocritical. And that's something the streets have never wanted to face. The conversation flipped overnight. Suddenly everyone was talking about loyalty, hypocrisy, and whether the street code even apply anymore. For years, rumors have floated around accusing Fat Joe of keeping money that was supposed to go to Big Pun's family. The claim is that Pun's wife and kids never saw the royalties that they were supposed to receive from his legendary catalog. Fat Joe once said he gave them $1 million, but Pun's wife quickly clapped back, saying she never saw a dime of that money. Things got so tense that she even filed a lawsuit against him, according to reports. Now, depending on who you ask, that case either ended in her favor or is still playing out in court. But either way, those accusations are serious. According to Pun's family, Pun's music kept generating major revenue, yet none of it was making its way to them. Fat Joe allegedly told them, "Ain't no money coming in, man. It's all going to prior obligations." That statement only fueled the fire more. Because if that's true, it adds a whole new layer to the drama, showing that this beef isn't just about music or street codes anymore. It's about loyalty, money, and legacy colliding in front of the entire world. But when Big Pun's family started digging into the situation, they discovered something completely different. Turns out there was money coming in, and someone was quietly collecting it behind the scenes. That revelation shook the fans to the core, because if it's true, it raises a dark question. How can someone preach morals, loyalty, and street ethics while allegedly cutting out the family of a fallen friend? That's not just shady, it's heartbreaking. And honestly, from a moral point of view, if that really happened, it hits even harder than anything 6ix9ine ever did. Snitching on criminals is one thing, but allegedly leaving behind a widow and kids of someone you once called your brother, that's a whole different level of betrayal. The streets talk a lot about loyalty, but situations like this make people wonder who's really standing on those principles and who's just using them as an image. So what do you think? Did 6ix9ine actually make a valid point about Fat Joe's integrity being questionable? Or is this just another round of internet chaos that got taken way too far? Either way, this situation peeled back layers of hip-hop's code that most people don't dare to touch. Let's talk about it. Drop your thoughts down in the comments and tell us what side you on. And hey, don't forget to smash that like button, share this video with your crew, and subscribe to Plug Room for more raw, unfiltered hip-hop stories every single week. We're keeping it real, bringing you the truth, and breaking down the biggest moments in the culture. So stay locked in with the Plug Room.